Have you ever noticed that some homes seem to breathe while others suffocate you with so much stuff? How many times have you opened a full closet and thought, I have nothing to wear? I used to feel that way. I tried organizing my home, bought storage boxes, watched decluttering videos, but nothing lasted for long. The mess always returned, like an unwelcome guest that decides to move in with you. Then I discovered a decluttering technique that completely changed my life. It's not magic, nor is it an empty promise. It's a method that helped me eliminate 70% of my belongings. And the most surprising part? I don't miss anything at all. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how I did it, step by step, using the selective decluttering technique I learned from the Japanese lifestyle. This technique isn't about throwing everything away haphazardly. It's about smartly choosing what truly deserves space in your home and your life. Let's begin this transformation together, and I promise that by the end of this video, you'll have all the tools to do the same in your home. It all started when I moved into a smaller apartment and had to decide what to take with me. I realized I had accumulated so much that I couldn't even remember what I owned. Drawers overflowing with knickknacks, closets packed with clothes I never wore, boxes stored for years that I never opened. That's when I understood I needed a radical solution. I researched a lot about minimalism and discovered this selective decluttering technique inspired by the Japanese lifestyle. In Japan, where spaces are small, people have learned to live well with less, valuing every item they keep in their homes. The first thing I did was establish clear categories for all my belongings. I divided everything into daily use, weekly use, occasional use, and rarely used. This classification was eye-opening. I discovered that 70% of my things were in the rarely used category, items I kept due to emotional attachment, just in case, or simply because I had forgotten they existed. The method of selective decluttering works like this. You start with the least used items and begin asking honest questions about each one. The main question isn't, does this bring me joy? As many methods suggest. It's more straightforward. Has this item served me in the last 6 months? Will it serve me in the next 6? I started with my wardrobe. I took all the clothes out and put them on the bed. It was shocking to see the mountain I had accumulated. Then I picked up each piece and asked the questions. Did I wear this in the last 6 months? Will I wear it in the next 6? If the answer was no for both, the item went into a donation box. It was tough at first. I picked up a coat that I had bought on sale, had never worn, but always thought, one day I'll wear it. I needed to be honest with myself. It had been 2 years since the coat had been sitting in the closet with the tag still on. The truth is, it didn't match my style, which is why I never wore it. I put it in the donation box. I did this with every piece. In the end, from the 200 items I had, I kept only 60. It seems like a small number, right? But they are exactly the clothes I wear and love. My closet now has room to breathe. I can see all the pieces without having to dig through piles of clothes, and most importantly, I don't miss any of the items I donated. The next step was the kitchen. How many utensils do we have that we use once a year, or maybe never? I had 3 different garlic presses, 5 cutting boards, and pots that I never used. I applied the same method. Have I used this in the last 6 months? Will I use it in the next 6? It was surprising to see how much space I gained in the kitchen cabinets. The hardest part was dealing with sentimental items, cards, travel souvenirs, gifts received. The selective detachment method has a special approach for this. You need to ask yourself, is this item the only way to keep this memory alive? Most of the time, the answer is no. I had a box full of birthday and Christmas cards. I realized that what mattered weren't the cards themselves, but the messages written on them. So I took photos of the most special messages and donated the cards. The memories stay with me, but without taking up physical space in my home. It was similar with travel souvenirs. I had so many fridge magnets, miniatures, and other items that I couldn't even display them properly. I chose only the most significant ones from each trip and donated the rest. Now the few I kept are displayed in a way that I can truly appreciate them every day. A common mistake we make is holding on to things just in case. I had cables for devices that didn't even exist anymore, instruction manuals for old appliances, loose parts I didn't know where they belonged. All of that was taking up an entire drawer. I applied the method and threw everything away. You know what happened? Nothing. I never needed any of those items afterward. The living room was transformative. I had shelves full of books, many of which I had never read or knew I wouldn't read again. DVDs I hadn't watched since I started using streaming services. Decor items that were gathering dust and didn't match my decor anymore. I applied the selective detachment method and drastically reduced the clutter. The books I knew I wouldn't read again were donated. The DVDs, too. I kept only the books that I truly love and reread. The bathroom had much more than I needed. Hair and makeup products that I tried once and didn't like, but didn't throw away. Free samples I accumulated during trips. All of that was discarded. Now my bathroom only has the products I use regularly. It's much easier to keep clean and organized. One of the unexpected benefits of selective decluttering was realizing how much money I was spending on unnecessary things. I started shopping much more consciously. Before buying something new, I ask myself the same questions. Will I use this regularly in the next 6 months? Is it worth the space it will take up in my home? This new way of thinking completely changed my relationship with consumption. Now I prefer to have a few quality items that last longer and that I actually use, rather than many cheap things that end up forgotten in the back of the closet. The technique of selective decluttering also taught me to appreciate empty space. In Japanese homes, empty space is just as important as the objects. It allows the home to breathe, lets the light circulate, and makes cleaning easier. A closet that isn't packed to the last shelf is a functional closet. Decluttering taught me that our homes don't need to be storage units. They are our refuges, places where we rest, eat, and spend time with those we love. Each object we keep should serve a purpose or bring us genuine satisfaction. One important tip: don't try to do it all at once. Selective decluttering works best when done by categories, one room at a time. It took me 3 months to transform my entire home. I started with the easiest items, like clothes and kitchen utensils, and left the hardest ones, like sentimental items, for last, when I was already more familiar with the process. Another valuable tip is not to buy organizers before decluttering. Many people make this mistake. They buy boxes, baskets, and dividers before knowing what they will actually keep. First, do a selective declutter. Then, when you know exactly what you have left, that's when you should invest in appropriate organization solutions. One question I often get is, how do I deal with items that other people in the house don't want to get rid of? My advice is simple. Start with your own belongings. When others see the positive results in your part of the house, they will naturally be more open to the idea. Decluttering shouldn't be forced, but inspired by example. The selective decluttering technique also works for digital items. I applied the method to my computer and phone. I deleted old files, organized photos, and cleaned up my email inbox. It's amazing how much lighter we feel when our digital space is organized too. One of the biggest benefits I experienced was the reduction in time spent on cleaning and organizing. When we have fewer things, it's much easier to keep the house in order. Before, I used to spend hours on weekends just tidying up and putting things away. Now, with fewer items and each one having a designated place, daily maintenance is minimal. Another benefit was the reduction of stress. I didn't realize how much visual clutter was affecting me until I got rid of it. Stepping into a clean, organized space where everything has its place brings an immediate sense of calm. My home has become a place I really want to be, not just a storage space for things. The selective decluttering technique also helped me identify what truly matters to me. When we eliminate the excess, we are left with only the essentials and what we truly love. This brings clarity not just to our spaces, but also to our life priorities. An important point: letting go doesn't mean living with the bare minimum. It's not a competition to see who has the least stuff. It's about having exactly what you need and what makes you happy without unnecessary excess. Some people ask me if I regret donating anything. Honestly, of the hundreds of items I got rid of, I only remembered one, a set of silverware that belonged to my grandmother. But even in that case, I realized that the important thing was her memory, not the silverware itself, which had been stored in a box without ever being used. Today, I prefer to honor her memory by using the recipes she taught me, something much more meaningful. The method of selective detachment also taught me to be more present. When we have fewer material distractions, we naturally turn to experiences, relationships, and moments. I started investing more in experiences than in things, and that changed my quality of life. A common question is, what if I need something I donated? That rarely happens, but if it does, it's usually possible to borrow, rent, or, as a last resort, buy it again. The eventual cost of repurchasing an item is much lower than the ongoing financial and emotional cost of keeping things we rarely use. Selective detachment also taught me to be more creative. With fewer utensils in the kitchen, for example, I learned to use what I have in multiple ways. A great example is my cast iron skillet, which I use for frying, baking, making soups, and even breads. I don't need a specific pot for each function. Another important lesson was about gifts. Often we keep things we don't like or use simply because they were gifts, and we feel guilty about donating them. I learned that the gift fulfilled its purpose the moment it was given. The person wanted to please you, and you received it with gratitude. What happens to the object afterward is your decision. A tip for those who have trouble getting started: do a test. Take the items you're unsure about keeping and put them in a box. Close the box and store it for 3 months. If during that time you don't miss anything inside, you can donate the box without opening it. This eliminates the fear of regret. The technique of selective detachment worked so well for me that I ended up applying it to other aspects of my life. I let go of social commitments that drained me, habits that no longer served me, and negative thoughts that took up mental space. It's liberating to realize that we can choose what we want to fill our lives with, whether material or not. Many people think Japanese minimalism is cold and impersonal, with almost empty homes. That's not the case at all. My home is still cozy, filled with family photos, books I love, plants, and decorative items that bring me joy. The difference now is that every object has been chosen consciously. It's not there by chance or accumulation. One interesting change I've noticed is how I receive visitors in my home. Before, when someone came over unexpectedly, I would panic and rush to hide the mess. Now, my home is always ready to welcome people because it stays naturally organized. The impact on my morning routine has also been surprising. I used to waste time looking for clothes, keys, and documents. Now, with fewer things and each having its own designated place, my mornings flow much better. I wake up later and still manage to do everything calmly. Another unexpected benefit has been saving money. In addition to spending less on unnecessary purchases, I've also noticed that I buy less food and waste less. With an organized kitchen, I can see exactly what I have and use everything before it spoils. An important piece of advice: donate what you can instead of throwing it away. Clothes, books, and household items in good condition can be incredibly helpful to others. Not only does this reduce waste, but it also helps those in need. Speaking of waste, the selective decluttering process has made me much more aware of the environmental impact of excessive consumption. Everything we buy will eventually become trash. The less we buy, the less waste we produce. A significant moment for me was when I finished applying the method throughout my entire home. I looked around and felt an indescribable lightness. My home seemed bigger, brighter, and more welcoming. And most importantly, every item in it had a purpose or special meaning. If you're thinking about starting your own decluttering journey, remember, the goal isn't to have a specific number of items, but to keep the right things for you. What works for me may not work for you, and that's okay. The important thing is to be honest with yourself about what you truly use and value. One last tip: take before and after photos. This will motivate you throughout the process, and it will be gratifying to see the transformation. I did this and still look at the old photos in amazement, unable to believe I lived in that mess. After applying the selective decluttering technique and eliminating 70% of my belongings, I realized that true luxury is not having a lot, but having exactly what serves you and makes you happy. My home now reflects who I am, rather than just being a random accumulation of things bought over the years. If you've made it this far, I know you're ready to start your own decluttering journey. Begin today, even with a small corner of your home. Experience the feeling of having only what truly matters. I promise that, just like it happened to me, you won't want to stop until you've completely transformed your home and your life. Selective detachment has not only freed me from 70% of my belongings, but also from the burden of maintaining, organizing, and cleaning them. Today I have more time, more space, and more clarity. How about you? Are you ready to experience this freedom too? Share this blessed video so it can touch and help others like you and me. Don't forget to click the subscribe button if you haven't done so yet. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of our faith community. If you wish to support our channel a little more, consider becoming a member. Here are 2 more videos for you to continue your journey. Thank you, and may God bless you all. See you soon.